Hey guys, welcome to the very first episode of Karthik calling Karthik, our really cheesy movie review slash discussion, you know, video. So channel. So that's what
Yeah,
we.
so we are just a bunch of dudes. We are super excited about all sort of like films that are out there, and we just wanted to have like a medium where we can have a chat about it. So last night we were one of the first people in the world who got to
Yeah,
saw a
yeah,
premiere show of Avengers: Infinity Wars.
yeah. Of all
Uh,
places in the Netherlands, I never thought that we would have like these super early shows.
yeah,
I thought someplace like China or someplace with there's a lot of huge movie crazy population, where that's when I thought you'll have these early shows. But I
yeah.
was surprised to find out that we had a super early show. You know,
So we were able to you know to sort of watch it, and we were one of lucky ones who did not sort of like get exposed to any sort of spoilers before it. So talking about that, in the beginning we'll give like a non-spoiler review of the movie, and then after a point we will inform you, and then we will say, okay, from this point on we're going to enter into some spoilery stuff. So
yeah,
if that's the point you want to switch off, you should switch off and go watch the movie, and then come back to that point.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, what was like your thoughts on it, like very first
Uh,
opinion?
Very first, I think it's totally worth the hype. There has been so much hype for this film, so much money spent by Marvel to promote the movie, and so much hype, and I think it's totally worth it. The movie, I think the show was around 12 o'clock in midnight, and I was kind of afraid after a really long day. I was like, oh fuck, I'm going to probably sleep off in the movie or something if it's not good. It's happened to me before, even though the movie is good. I sort of slept, and I got myself a Red Bull, but I did not really need it at the end of the movie. That's how good it was. It just kept me hooked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. Like it did like feel like a magnum opus from like Marvel. It was like sort of a coming together of all the years of
Yeah.
of like work that they put in, and something that I was afraid of, that it will be like a cramped film, but
Yeah.
it wasn't. It had sort of an equal kind of an opportunity for all the heroes to shine. They all had sort of their own parts to play and their own moments.
Yeah.
In the end, it was I would say this was one of the best I think like films from like Marvel for me
Yeah,
to
I,
date.
I definitely think. I think, like the general pre release verdict for the film was it's going to be too cramped. Everyone thought that this film was going to be too cramped. And yeah, I totally agree. Like the Wikipedia list of cast itself is, half the page. That's
Yeah,
how big it is.
yeah,
So, despite that, and I think there were times when I did kind of feel it was a bit cramped, like the things that were happening on screen were a little too, I would say, cramped in some sense, in between in places. I'll talk about them later in the spoiler part of the review. I still felt it was a great film, and the way it ended, the way it sort of segued to the next Marvel Avengers film, you guys would love it if when you watch the film. And
cool. So yeah, that's yeah. I think if you haven't sort of seen the film yet, if you want to see it, we will say 100% go and take a
yeah,
look at it.
yeah,
You won't regret it.
this
Yeah.
is, in my opinion, the best Avengers film ever. So I sort of liked Avengers, the first one. Ultron was okay for me, like I didn't really enjoy Ultron so much, but this one sort of takes the cake amongst all the Avengers movie. And I think this goes at the very top of my list. Like, even for me, it's like the best Marvel movie that I've ever seen so far. And I hope they top it up. They have a huge responsibility to top this stuff up in the future. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, sure. I think now we will switch to a more spoiler-filled discussion about it.
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen the film yet, stop watching the video right now. Go and watch the movie, and then after that, to come back to it,
Yes.
I will put some sort of a graphic here that will
Yeah.
mention that this is a spoiler from this point on.
You
So
have been warned.
yeah. Spoilers. So, I think the best part about the movie was the villain.
Yeah.
So Thanos was the guy we've been hearing from the very beginning. He has been having stuff like post-credit scene. He has, you can sort of like hear his name throughout entire, the history of the MCU.
Yeah.
And this was like the time of him to be on screen. And I was apprehensive in the beginning. I'm like, okay, I don't know as much about him as I should, like be knowing. It's because I know everyone else like super well, but I don't know as much about him. I don't know stuff like his motivations and stuff like that. And I'm talking only from like film point of view. Of
Yeah.
course, there are like history with the comics, but when you talk about just like the film, we didn't know as much about him. Like what is the reason he wants to vanquish half the earth, or like the world. We
Yeah.
didn't know it,
Yeah.
but they did such a good job of establishing him as a character and explaining what is like motivation to him to do all the things that he wants to.
Exactly. And in my opinion, like, would you agree if I say that this is more of a Thanos movie than an Avengers movie?
I totally
know,
agree
Because
even
they gave him. So the reason why he tries to wipe out half the universe, according to the comics, is that he's obsessed with death. So he's obsessed. So death was his love, and so in the comics, basically, all of this is motivated by his need to appease
yeah.
death. And so that's why he's trying to like wipe out half the universe. And though they don't go into that kind of a backstory and try to do that, they still give him a really good motive to do what he's doing. And the whole movie is just like this huge Thanos haste film. That's how the Russo brothers put it in all their interviews. Like, it's a Thanos haste movie. Like, he just comes, starts collecting one stone after another, and he just leaves destruction right from the very first minute he walks on screen. And that's
Yeah.
what I love.
Yeah, and he is like from the get go, that he's the strongest of all the villains we have seen to date. Like
Yeah, and he's merciless.
He is not a Loki. He's not an Ultron. He's
Yeah.
a guy who is going to kick your ass. Like in the very establishing shot with Hulk, where he just sort of just like throws him around, as if it's nothing.
Yeah.
So
And the way he kills Loki, like, there's no mercy.
Yeah.
Like, I would say other villains in the MCU are so toothless, especially when you had the first Avengers with Loki and the Chitauri and all these guys were totally toothless, but he just squeezes the life out of Loki and drops him dead. And that's how he goes. Like, that's his killing style. Just squeezes the life out of you, drops you dead. And that's his form of mercy.
Yeah.
And I fucking love the fact that it's just entirely a Thanos movie, and it's something so refreshing. The last time I saw such a film was probably The Dark Knight, where the villain was the center of the whole thing, and he was like the whole thing around which the character sort of gravitated around. He
Yeah.
pulled the strings,
Yeah.
rather than the hero pulling the strings. The Joker was the one who really caused chaos.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah.
what Thanos does in this movie. And
Yeah, because as you step away from like the movie, like after you're home, the only stuff that is in your head is about him. Like all the stuff that he says, like that is what you take home with you after the movie is about him as a character. So yeah, he is the one. I think like he is the star of the movie, and yeah, he is definitely like the topmost reason because of which you should go and watch it.
Yeah, and I think and the way and that puts us into the whole thing with the stones. The whole his whole obsession with the stones and what it's capable of doing. I think the other thing that they've made really nice in the film was they made the stones as powerful as what it was mentioned in the comics. So the comics, the stones are the most powerful objects out there in the universe, and they've done full justice to that, I feel, in the film. When you have a reality stone, that thing just bends reality the way it wants to. Like the scene where they were in that scene in Titan where they're trying to fight him, and then all of these missiles just turn into bats and then come and attack Iron Man again, right? So that kind of stuff is what the reality stone is capable of. Even the part where in the end he turns time back and grabs the stone out of Vision's head.
Yeah.
So I love the fact that they made the stones as powerful as what it was in the comics and didn't really
Yeah.
slack on that.
And also, you were able to see how adding each stone to the gauntlet was actually increasing, like his power every second. So he
Yeah.
was becoming, sort of like invincible every step of the movie as
Yeah.
he kept on adding
Like-
a stone to, to like his gauntlet, and yeah, that was
Yeah, it was like it was like each time he'd put the stone onto his gauntlet, he'd have like a mini orgasm on screen. He'd be like, yes, you know.
yeah,
You could
no, but also like all the fights he would have, like if you see like the very beginning, like fight he has, and then all the fights he has towards the end, you could like see that he's becoming like a lot more invincible by like the end of it. Like in the beginning, he just has like a single stone, and the kind of fight he has, he it takes a couple of punches, but towards the end he's become almost invincible, where all
yeah.
the Avengers are attacking him from all sides, and he's just taking a walk towards like Mindstone, and he's not stopping
Yeah.
for anyone. So
And even the Avengers knew at that point like it's over. You know, like the moment I think Doctor Strange handed the Time Stone to Thanos, they knew it was over. You know that they knew the fight was over, and that's it. And that's what I love. I think all the characters in this film, because of the stones, felt like such an apocalyptic movie. You know, like everyone knew that they were going towards the inevitable.
yeah,
Like after he got the second and third stone, that's it. As soon as he got the reality stone, people knew that okay, it's done. You know, let's pack up and go home. But despite that, they put that kind of a heroic fight. You know, even towards the end, they were trying. And I loved the shot where Captain America was just holding onto Thanos' gauntlet, and that's one of my favorite shots in the film. You know, he was just
Yeah.
holding on. That shows like how much the Avengers wanted to stop this till the very end. But yeah, like what can they do? You know, he's the Mad Titan and he's got the stones, and you just have to accept the inevitability now. Yeah, that's that's the thing. And speaking of which, I think even the dead folks in the film were a huge surprise to us. Like for me personally,
I was expecting deaths when I walked into it.
yeah
I was expecting deaths because that's how people have been talking about it, and yeah, like because Marvel has been having a lot of sort of this kind of like thing where they don't like kill people, and that's something
yeah.
that they have been getting, and I sort of expected a lot of deaths,
And
but
who
no
did you
important
expect,
characters.
like going into the film before you saw the film? Who did you expect to
I
die?
definitely expected Loki and also Vision to die for sure.
Okay.
That was sort of obvious to me from the trailer itself that
What about Cap? Did you? I expected Cap to die.
I expected him sort of to die because not because of stuff that they were like showing us, but because apparently like his contract is about to end and they haven't
Yeah,
renewed his contract yet. So
exactly.
from that point of view, I had an assumption, but there was no hints in any of the things sort of before which indicated that he would die.
Yeah.
So, but like Loki and also with Vision, I was pretty like sure that they would die, and yeah, they
For
both
me,
die.
the
Really.
surprise package was Gamora. I was like, because like you mentioned, right? I think a lot of times you can sort of predict more or less what's going to happen when you look at the whole Marvel MCU roster. Like the films that are going to come after that, and they have a Guardians of Galaxy planned for 2020, and I'm like, okay, how can you kill Gamora when she's one of the Guardians, right? At the same time, just like you expected Cap to die, one from the trailer, he was holding onto Thanos' gauntlet, and I could see that he has the stones, and I'm like, okay, why? Like, how do you expect him to be alive and hold on to it? I still kind of think it's, there's some mystery to it because there's no other Avenger who could really stand up to him, and do
But
like a hand-to-hand combat with those stones, but he still could hold on to the gauntlet, and well, Thanos was trying to press it onto him. And you could see the discomfort on Thanos' face. Like if you even watch the trailer, you can see the discomfort on Thanos. Like he's facing this surprising resistance from another human that he thinks is so puny, but Cap is able to hold on to that for so long, and that surprises Thanos. And I think that there's got to be some kind of a backstory to it, which maybe we're missing at this point.
I don't know. Yeah, that's probably a little too overthinking of a point. Like, because he's not a puny human, he's like a super soldier, and yeah, he has,
No, I mean,
he
with saying
has shown super strength before.
with respect to someone like Thor, or with respect to someone like a Hulk, right? Where Hulk was able to like get, he couldn't really touch Thanos in the very beginning,
Yeah, but
right?
like even so, immediately after
Yeah.
like the shot of him the holding off, he gets like punched to the ground. So it's not like he did any sort of like damage, like like to Thanos. So it was like a like a heroic you're like short, and I think this is what the Captain America as a character it sort of stands for, that even when all the odds are against him, he'll keep on fighting
Yeah.
until he can.
Yeah.
And I think it was a lot more symbolic of that kind of an attitude of him than anything else.
True.
So yeah, so it was there, yeah, like we can actually speak about stuff happening in the movie for ages. Like I'm pretty sure there will be a bunch of other guys who would be
Yeah.
making like a dissection of everything that happens, because there is so much that goes down. There are already sort of sort of like theories in my head, but probably let's talk about one, like what do you think is going to happen in the future? What do you think is the part? Okay, so basically by the end of like movie, half of the whole early universe is dead, and that's how it ends. So like, what is your assumption as to what's going to happen in the future?
So I think what's going to happen is, we're going to. I think what's going to happen is Captain Marvel is going to be the one to go ahead and rescue the lost souls in the film. Because there's Black Panther who's dead, who goes away. There's Spider-Man who goes away, and I think what's going to happen is they're going to like regroup in the next Avengers film with Captain Marvel and probably take on Thanos in some sense. Because Thanos is still alive, the Gauntlet is still there. Uh, the-
Yeah, but like, what is like you say, like like, is there something that they will be able to do to beat Thanos? Because as of now, he's the invincible.
Yeah,
like,
he's invincible,
There's
and
nothing that can bring him down. So what do you think would like bring him down?
I think so. I don't know. Maybe so because according to the comics, Captain Marvel is one of the strongest beings in the galaxy, right? Maybe they would have that. And another interesting theory that I have is just came to me is towards the end of Guardians of Galaxy 2, they actually have a new introduction of a character called Adam Warlock.
Yeah.
Right? And I think they're probably going to use Adam to go ahead and take down Thanos, because that's again what happens in the comics. So Adam takes the Infinity Gauntlet, defeats Thanos, takes the Infinity Gauntlet, breaks apart the stones, and again gives them to different races in the universe, so that they don't come. The possibility of them coming together again is not there. So I think that's probably what they might do. But then, yeah, I'm just saying it based on the fact that there is a Captain Marvel movie before the next Avengers. So they're probably going to use her help to take down Thanos by
Yeah.
by using some form of deception. They're probably going to pry the gauntlet away from him or try to destroy it in some sense, and
Yeah.
break open the stones.
Yeah, that's what I see. Because right now, the main source of strength for like Thanos is from the Gauntlet, and the only way to defeat him is to get the Gauntlet away from him. And also, like after he did the snap, the Gauntlet seemed pretty destroyed also. So I'm not sure if that
Yeah.
has any sort of like implications on if the Gauntlet is still as you like usable. Is it still as good? So I have my the doubts about that. And also something that I was able to observe when I was watching like movie was this. I think Stark might have something to do with the way sort of like Thanos will end.
Why do you say that?
It's because so when the Doctor Strange has this sort of a vision of all the possibilities that are going to happen, and he says there's only like single one
Yeah.
where we win, and then in the end, like he sacrifices the stone to stop the killing of Stark.
Yeah.
And after that, he says this was the only way. So I have a feeling that he saw that Stark has to be the one who has to end, Thanos, and he thought that he needs to sacrifice the stone to save him, because he says this is the only way. So this was the way that he saw that it would end, because he states it very like definitively that he would not sacrifice the stone if it has to be between the life of Stark or Spider-Man.
Yeah.
He's going to save the stone. But then he does the exact opposite of that, and I think this might be the reason because he thinks Stark has something to do with it.
Yeah, I definitely think that thinking about it now, it makes sense that maybe Stark has something to do with it. Because initially, I was thinking, when he said there's only one out of a 165 million chances in them winning, I thought he was just trying to bluff so that these people feel motivated enough to fight. I thought maybe he saw a future where there's no way you guys could come on top of this, right? But that could also be true, because I think Doctor Strange is a fairly, he comes across as a fairly logical person or a fairly rational person, right? So I'm sure he would have made that choice if he saw that is the most best way to go forward.
Yeah, and I feel it will also be some sort of a poetic, like justice, because he was because Iron Man was the one who like kickstarted the MCU.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it would make sense if he's the one who is at the magnum opus of it. He's the one who is also the one who is
Yeah.
doing the grand finale of the whole
Speaking
phase.
of grand finale, I did not really, to be honest, I didn't really miss Nick Fury till the very end. Like I didn't even have him in my head throughout the film till the very end, and I was like, oh shit, there's Nick Fury, the guy who actually started it all for Stark. The whole scene at the end of Iron Man. It was nice to actually see. Okay, yeah, they had a role for Nick Fury, and he and Hill were going down the road, and then things were again like they were experiencing the whole half the universe being destroyed moment.
Yeah.
And I love the part where he paged Captain Marvel towards the end, and
Yeah.
it was a very sweet, I think, segue to the next movie. Like they kept the cliffhanger on.
Yeah.
A lot of people I think will be trying to look up as to what that symbol meant. But I think some people who might have seen all these breakdown videos,
I think anyone who knows MCU by
Yeah.
now, it like would know what that was and how
Yeah.
it's gonna go
Yeah.
down. Cool. I think that was just like some of our thoughts. We just wanted to see, have like a discussion on it and share it with people. We will try to do a lot more of it in the future.
Yeah, maybe we'll probably come back to it after watching Ant-Man and the Wasp.
That's like 6 months away.
No,
or
Ant-Man
it's
is
a couple of months away.
yeah, Ant-Man the Wasp
Yeah,
is July.
I'm pretty sure we should be doing it a lot more often than that. So we'll
yeah.
probably do something much before that.
Maybe
yeah,
for
would be cool if you guys have any ideas on how to make this more interesting. What is it that you guys would want to hear us about? We were thinking of like a bunch of ideas, which we have in our head. But yeah, would really want to know what you guys want to hear about us talking.
yes. So go ahead and leave comments about what you think might be an interesting thing for us to discuss, and
Like and share and subscribe.
like, share, and subscribe. Yeah.
All right. This is the end of the first episode of this
This Karthik.
podcast-ish Karthik calling Karthik, and we will see you in the next one.
Yes. So have a great day, night, whatever. Bye.